Sometimes a piece of art captures you and won't let go. For me, the painting of Christ's Resurrection by Bartolomé Bermejo is one of those pieces that has grabbed my heart and soul. And in this video, I want to share with you who Bartolomé Bermejo was and show you some of the details of this gorgeous painting from the 15th century. Bartolomé de Cárdenas, known simply as Bermejo, was a Spanish master of Cordovan origin. He was born in 1445 and died in 1501. Bermejo developed his artistry in the territories of the Crown of Aragon, particularly Valencia, Daroca, Zaragoza, and Barcelona. Bermejo's wife, Gracia de Palaciano, was one of many local Jewish converts to Christianity, known then as conversos. Gracia was investigated by the Inquisition at least once, and Bermejo himself may also have been a converso. Several of his paintings feature Hebrew characters, but his biographical details are few and unreliable, so we just don't know. Though highly successful in his time, he was largely forgotten after his death until the late 19th century. He signed some works Bermejo, meaning Auburn, and signed other works Bartolomeus Rubeus, literally Bartolomeus the Red, possibly referring to a physical feature of some kind. Some of Bermejo's known works include the Suffering Christ, the Pietà, the St. George altarpiece, the Assumption of the Virgin, and the spectacular painting of St. Michael the Archangel triumphing over the devil. Bermejo developed an exceptional realism that includes forensic attention to detail, illusionistic effects, and spectacular color ranges. Alongside his technical skill, his ability to develop new interpretations of various themes and iconographies is striking. The strong influence of Flemish painting can be found in Bermejo's work. The Flemish school was inaugurated by Jan van Eyck and Roger van der Weyden, which had conquered all of Europe, including Italy, in the second half of the 15th century. Bermejo likely apprenticed in cosmopolitan Valencia in the second half of the 15th century, a city influenced by both Flemish and Italian currents. Bermejo aroused the interest of a series of select patrons, from high-ranking ecclesiastics and nobles to distinguished merchants, as well as his colleagues in the profession who often imitated his compositions. Bermejo painted his Resurrecció sometime between 1470 and 1475. It is one of 4 oil-on-wood panels that was created originally as part of the predella of an altarpiece of Santo Domingo de Silos, painted for the church of the same name in Daroca, Spain. The other 3 panels depict the descent of Christ into hell, the entrance of the redeemed into paradise, and the ascension of Christ into heaven. Currently, they can be viewed at the Museu Nacional d'Art de Catalunya in Barcelona, Spain. Above the predella was the image of the Bishop Domingo de Silos, which is outstanding in its size and detail, and truly worthy of a presentation all in itself. But for right now, let's take a closer look at the resurrection. Christ is the central figure that dominates the scene, the risen one coming forth from the tomb on Easter morning. We see how all things in the image revolve around the risen Lord. A golden aura shines behind Christ's figure like a mandorla. And note how the body of Jesus is non-idealized. He's quite skinny with narrow shoulders. There are patches of body hair in various places, something seen very frequently in Bermejo's paintings. Compare this Christ to the Christ of Michelangelo's Judgment in the Sistine Chapel, or in different images in Renaissance and Baroque Western Europe. Christ has gentle, meek eyes looking at the viewer with a loving gaze. His right hand is raised in lordship and blessing, pointing upwards to the Father, and his left hand is firmly upon his staff. It's a gold Gothic cross with part of the cross unseen in the image, most likely from being damaged at some point. The second psalm in the Old Testament speaks of the Lord's anointed with his iron staff ruling over the nations. And here we have this silver or iron staff rising up over the weapons of war, pictured below. Notice how the translucent robe of glory flows actually from the staff. Adam and Eve were initially robed in glory. After the fall, they made fig leaves for themselves. They're later covered with garments of skin provided by God. And now, the robe of glory is beginning to be restored to the human race, beginning with Christ. But that new robe of glory, shining, resplendent, transparent, is always connected to the cross, the place of death turned into life. In the image, we see the contrast of light and darkness, where in the bottom half, the guards who are keeping watch over the tomb, lest Jesus' disciples come and steal his thought-to-be-dead body, they are draped in red and black and dark gold. In the top half of the painting, Christ, the angel, and the women are all covered in light. We see greens and blues, flesh tones, a many-hued sunrise coming up. And this is indicative of the two kingdoms. There is the kingdom of God, full of life and light and resurrection and love for the risen Christ. And there's the kingdom of the world, death, darkness, and resistance and rejection of Christ. The kingdom of God triumphs over the kingdom of the world. Let's take a closer look at the guards. The guards were sent by Pontius Pilate at the request of the chief priests and the Pharisees. We read, "The next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. 'Sir,' they said, 'we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, "After 3 days I will rise again." So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first.' 'Take a guard,' Pilate answered. 'Go, make the tomb as secure as you know how.' So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. However, we read later on, there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men." Looking upon the armor of the guards, we see it's very similar to the kinds of armor featured in the Triumph of St. Michael, Bermejo's other work and more famous work. We see in the armor of the guards grotesque creatures that are hidden in the small details of the armor. The soldier on the left has shoulder armor where there's a jawless face with teeth. The middle soldier has shoulder armor with 2 fanged sea creatures. And the right soldier has a helmet of a horned beast of some kind coming forth from him. Notice how each soldier has a different position: ears, eyes, hands, all resisting Christ. The soldier lifting his shield, the soldier lifting his hand, the soldier covering his ears, as if they will do anything to not see, hear, or touch the risen Lord. Behind Christ, the women approach on Sunday morning, the day after the Sabbath. All of them carry large vessels of scented ointments. The Jewish burial conventions were probably all shortened because of the very short time between Jesus' death and being taken down from the cross and put into the grave. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome all went very early, before the sun had risen, on the first day of the week, with spices to anoint the body of Jesus. The scriptures of the New Testament say that looking up, they saw that the stone was rolled back. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, dressed in a white robe, and they were amazed. And he said to them, "Do not be amazed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him." On Christ's left stands the angel, clothed in white. He's standing upon the lid of the sepulchre, and engraved in stone on two shield-like emblems are Hebrew characters. These, read right to left, are the first two letters of the Hebrew word for Sheol, or the pit, or the tomb, Shin and Aleph. The angel is riding the tomb door almost like a surfboard. The angel is adoring Christ, almost taunting, "O death, where is your sting?" with hands folded in adoration and prayer. Bermejo paints angels in similar style in other pieces. The spots under the wings are almost reminiscent of peacock feathers. This may evoke how the scriptures depict angels in the books of Ezekiel and Revelation, where in Ezekiel 10, it reads, "And I looked, and behold, there were 4 wheels beside the cherubim, and their rims and their spokes and their wheels were full of eyes round about." And Revelation 4, verse 8 says, "The 4 living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within." Finally, the landscape of Bermejo's Resurrecció is lush and full of detail. It's been cataloged that Bermejo painted individually dozens and dozens of species of plants found around Spain. Here there's less of a variety, but still the same lushness, detail, and hearkening back to the garden imagery of the Bible, where God created human beings and placed them in a garden. In a garden, they fell in their sin, and in a garden, Christ went into his agony to save humanity and rose from the dead in a garden from a tomb in which no one had ever been laid. A reproduction of this painting is featured in St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church in Roseville, Minnesota. Every time I look upon it, something new reveals itself to me. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Bartolomé Bermejo, and I hope you've enjoyed exploring this amazing painting of the Resurrection with me today. May God bless you.